How can I not be honored to be up here with co-presenters and grateful that you've all decided to share your Friday afternoon with us. As you can see, my name is Ryan. In addition to my roles here at UWL, I'm a licensed psychologist, and I've worked with victims and perpetrators of sexual violence over the years. One of my specialties is in both for clinical teaching and research is in men's issues, so men and masculinity. Now, I've learned over the years that a lot of men, and particularly cisgendered straight men, get really uncomfortable with the terms rape culture. So I've decided I'm going to do something a little different. I'm not going to talk about that today because I don't want to make men feel any discomfort. So if it's all right with you, I'd rather talk about professional football and the Green Bay Packers. Is that okay? All right. So just by a show of hands, how many people here would agree with the following statement? Wisconsin has a sports culture that supports the Green Bay Packers. Look around, you'll never see this many people on a college campus unanimously agree on anything. All right. Now let's say that I moved here from out of state, which I did, and I'm not particularly a fan of professional football, which I'm not. And truth be told, I had to text my neighbor last night to borrow this jersey. So that is a true story. Now, what if I came in and I said, look, I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I don't see any evidence of a sports culture here in support of the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm willing to bet I could find plenty of people who would argue otherwise. And all I need to do is go to Festival or Woodman's on game day, and I'll see that's what it is. Now, how would you convince me? Well, let's first agree on some terminology here. All right. What is culture? Now, we can debate the finer points of this, but let's just agree that it's a way of life. It's a set of beliefs, customs that a particular people have at a particular time. All right, so let's review some of the evidence that you might use to try to convince me that we're in a Green Bay Packers culture. We have diehard fans out in this rain, so sleet, and hail to tailgate. We have our brats and beer. Smack talk to other NFL team fans. We have traditions like the Lambeau Leap. Right? And there's just some general good fun, right, as we're out celebrating. We have words that we understand to mean certain things. Go, Pack, go. We're a family, not fans. We even have famous words from famous folks, like Vince Lombardi. We can even look at representations in art and media and social media. Here's some more smack talk for Bears fans. The Packers as superheroes. More Twitter banter. Once again, the Bears. We even have T-shirts, if you can't read this, it says roses are red, violets are blue, the Bears suck, and the Vikings do too. Yeah. We even have onesies for infants, right? I drool, green, and gold. And then, not surprisingly, we have our ubiquitous fan signs that we can see at any particular game. Now, all this support goes somewhere, so it's also important to look at kind of what systems are involved with culture. And so one thing that's unique about the Green Bay Packers is they're the only publicly owned team in the league, and so we actually know quite a bit about their financials. And so in 2014, their share of revenue for the NFL was $226 million. They had $150 million local revenue. That's a lot of bucks. If you want to look at the top 5 salaries for players, those are in millions. If anybody had $1.4 billion sitting around, they could offer to buy the Packers. And then it also does it does real good for the Green Bay community. Every game brings in about $3.5 million in economic impact. So it's really hard to argue that there's no culture of support around the Green Bay Packers. Now, all right, it's time for me to come clean. Of course, I'm going to talk about rape culture. And of course, it's going to be uncomfortable. But I'm going to borrow a technique from a colleague of mine named Sutta, who you've perhaps seen at other teach-ins, and I'm going to use analogy. Now, let's agree on some terminology here. And my colleague Kate had mentioned a little bit about the same definition here, a complex set of beliefs that encourage male sexual aggression and support violence against women. Now, imagine someone says to you, because I've heard this, you've heard it, or you wouldn't be here, I don't believe it. There's no such thing as rape culture. What evidence is there that rape culture exists? Take a look. It says, lock up your daughters if you can't read it. All this goes somewhere as well. This is the net worth of the top 5 male porn actors. If you're not familiar with Spencer's Gifts, they're repeatedly been criticized for selling misogynistic merchandise that promotes rape culture. They're doing pretty well. And lastly, we even have endorsements for star athletes despite allegations, and this happens across sports. Now look, well-meaning men can sit here and say to themselves, but this isn't about me, right? I'm not a rapist. Well, good for you. But I hope you don't see that as a major accomplishment. I mean, can you imagine sitting in an interview or being on a date and listing that as one of your most significant contributions to the world? Of course not. That is one seriously low bar for yourselves. Now, nobody in this audience, self-included, thinks that by wearing this jersey that this makes me Aaron Rodgers. Clearly, I don't even fit in this thing. But it does mean on some level that I support the Green Bay Packers. So if I walk around, people can make some assumptions about that. Now, if everybody in the state stopped attending Packers games, stopped buying Packers merchandise, how long do you think it would take for the Packers to leave Green Bay? Right? Not very long. Now ask yourself, what do I do or say or don't say every day that shows some support on some level for rape culture and sexual violence? If I wear a misogynistic t-shirt, if I post, like, upvote, or some tasteless photo on social media, or if I whistle or shout some offensive words at someone passing by, does that mean I'm a rapist? No. But does that mean on some level I support rape culture? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to wrap this up by introducing this violence pyramid. This might be new for some folks. And when we discuss rape culture, it's very tempting to focus on the top of that pyramid, right? The criminal perpetration that Kate talked about. But that only exists, those folks only exist because there are layers upon layers of support for it. Now, Kate already talked about these layers and how words have meaning. So I want you to take a moment to look at all the different ways that we potentially participate in this culture. And I want you to ask about yourself and how you may or may not participate in that culture. So all I ask for you at the end of this teach-in is that you ask yourself these 2 questions every day. Where am I on the pyramid, and what will I do differently to dismantle it? Thank you.